Hey, Ryan, is this going to, yeah, okay, we're good. Can everybody hear me? All right, this is new. We got some new lanyard here that will help us to stream out into the, through YouTube so that we can have people that are tuning in virtually, and we're also going to have this recorded, and anybody who's on vacation and can't be with us at this specific time, they can tune in whenever they have a chance. We have a lot to go over tonight. I just first want to thank you. This is a privilege to be able to come beside you in the education of your children. And during this time, it's a difficult time for a lot of schools. Many aren't able to get back in and be in person. I believe that's to the detriment of student learning. And so we've done everything we can to be able to be in school. It's been a lot of work for us to be able to space classrooms out, move classrooms around, remove furniture, add a lot of elements, a lot of very costly, some of them very costly, even the water fountain's $1,500 with a bottle filler. The sprayer that we're going to use in here, over $1,000. It's an electrostatic sprayer. They're expensive, just for one of them. So there's been a lot of investment that we've made as an academy into making sure that we're prepared. A lot of hard work and labor has gone into it by a lot of people supporting us. And we're just grateful for everyone who's come beside us and helped us and support us. I'm grateful for the teachers and the work that they did in the spring to continue. Our students, they didn't get behind. We just kept going, and our teachers did that on a day's notice. We were online. We were doing things virtually. We don't have Chromebooks. We don't do any online virtual learning. We had to learn Loom and Zoom and every other type of system out there in a moment's notice, and I'm just proud of them for how we came together, and they came together as a community, and really just kept the learning going. Our students aren't behind. They didn't sit around for 3 months doing nothing, and a lot of other private schools did well as well. So congratulations to them as well. We plan to do the same thing this year, and I'll be going over, I'm going to start when we start to talk, we're going to do a couple other things first. When we start to talk about the things I need to share with you, just so you know, I'll get right to COVID right away. In our teacher training, we're going over policies and procedures. We started right with COVID. I knew it was going to take the longest, and all the things that you know from our plan, but I know we'll have a lot of questions as well. We'll be able to answer them at the end. But let's, actually, before we go to prayer, what we normally do every year for 20 years, we won't be doing this year. Again, this is our 20th year. We have been in existence for 20 years. This is our 21st year, so this was supposed to be the big celebration, have the big cookout, bring out the lobster tails, But those plans, that we make aren't always the Lord's plans for us. So we're sorry that we weren't able to end our year with the cookout or do that back to school cookout that we normally do. It's just there's some social things that we're obviously are missing. But the most important thing is that our children will be well educated, and I'm confident that that will happen. So we won't be able to sing for He Who Would Valiant Be, but I am going to read it for you, and because I want us to think about what this says to us. And the hymn says that he who would valiant be against all disaster, let him in constancy follow the Master. There's no discouragement shall make him once relent his first avowed intent to be a pilgrim. Whoso beset him round with dismal stories, do but themselves confound, his strength the more is. No foe shall stay his might, though he with giants fight. He will make good his right to be a pilgrim. Since, Lord, thou dost defend us with thy Spirit. We know we at the end shall life inherit. Then fancies flee away. I'll fear not what men say. I'll labor night and day to be a pilgrim. These words have been our theme hymn. And I'm going to go to the Lord in prayer with this hymn in mind. So if you'll pray with me. Dear Lord, we just thank you that you go before us. We thank you that in times where we hear dismal stories, when we have our own dismal stories, some of us have suffered various illnesses, including COVID in our families. Some have suffered death in our community. Some have suffered death from COVID-19. Some are fearful of what that means for them and their families. But we know that you are our strength, you are our provider, and you are our protector. We know that you go before us, and we know that this world is not our home, that we have another home. We have a faith and a hope that is greater than any challenge that we face in this world and in this life. And we thank you for giving us that hope, for giving us that faith, for giving us that confidence in time of fear and in time of uncertainty, that we know that you are with us and that you will protect us and that you will, even in death, strengthen us and take us into your heaven. Lord, we pray this year that you would watch over our children, keep our children and families safe, keep our teachers safe, keep our community safe, keep those around us with your guiding hand, Lord. Just pray that all the challenges that we're faced with, that we'll see your blessing and your graces that go along with us as well, and that we won't be bogged down in despair, but that we would be people that look for the good in times of trial, in times of tribulation. And Lord, just pray that you would give us the strength and the wisdom to make the decisions and to do the things that we need to do throughout this year to adjust to the constant changes that have come our way. And Lord, I give you all the praise and all the glory for all that we have in Jesus' name. All right, so let me see. First, I want to talk about the COVID plan and its inception. And so we waited for a while to hear something and to get some guidance from the authorities. And when that wasn't coming readily, we just started making our own plans. And we didn't make them in a vacuum. We obviously had the CDC guidelines and various local advisors. Those advisors included the school board and our vestry, which is our church governance that's over our school board. But not only them, in our leadership in making decisions, and some of them advising us. One of our school board members, his name is Alan Graham. He's on the vestry here at church. He's also on the COVID team at GBMC. One of our teacher's husband, Mr. Stephen Crow, was the first to help. He's a safety director at a local college. He was first to help me start to formulate a plan based on already going through the motions of that on a daily basis at the college that he works at. And then it went to our insurance lawyers, and then it went to our lawyer that we use. We use Sims Showers, and Steve Sims was able to help us with the legal end of it as well. So it went through a lot of hands, a lot of eyes, a lot of advisors, changed along the way, and this thing continues to change. As you know, we're in phase 3 now. So things daily, you think you have your mind wrapped around where we are, where we're going, what we're doing, and then things start to change. So we have a plan, and that plan may change, and could change, and I hope it will change in a positive way as we move forward. The idea in the COVID plan is that we will have spacing, and that's ideally 6 foot, can be 66 inches, which is 5.5 feet, and that we use personal protective equipment. So that means for the students, and I'll just explain this because there's some confusion. It could have been in my wording. Some people thought when we said, yes, you can wear a mask, your kids can come with a mask, and or Steve, Steve had a shield. You want to model that for us? I just want you to have to put it on. Mr. Cox was our founding headmaster and has taught many years at St. Stephen's and is a friend of mine. And he's back this year to help us out teaching omnibus. So that shield, they thought, you got to put the mask on, the shield, and then, we're going to put the gaiter on top of that. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is for management, when you wear these, I wear these a lot, and they break all the time. They break constantly. And when we're trying to manage the children, these things breaking or whatever it is, it was a nightmare to think about. And so we said, we'll have the gaiter. This is the gaiter the school has purchased. It comes from Flynn O'Hara, and it is not sheer. So I can wear this and be safe. As far as the effectiveness in this and this is not much that, probably better than this. I'm not even sure how effective this is or how thick it is or how many layers that actually is, but it's a medical one. In talking to Alan about that gaiter mask, because that controversy, and he just said, there are gaiters that aren't good, they're too sheer, and there are masks that aren't good. They're one layer and they're not effective. And the way that you wear a mask is also means if it's going to be effective or not. And the way you wear a gaiter is a little bit easier. You can just pull it up. And so this one has a hem, the one that the school bought. This is a lot easier than the first one I looked at that doesn't have a hem on it, meaning that the top kind of catches your nose and doesn't fall down. So we can keep it up when we need to. It's always there. We can pull it up. So the idea is that on their person, they will have a form of PPE, and we're guaranteeing that it will always be accessible with the gaiter. If you choose to want your child to wear a mask or a shield or a mask and shield, that's fine, but they're still going to have a gaiter because we need to manage them. And then they will manage the other PPE if that's what you choose to do. So PPE, personal protective equipment, and spacing. Those two ideas are how we're managing it. So if the student's at the desk and we're teaching, they don't need to have PPE on. If you have told them they need to wear their mask at all times, even when they're outside running around at recess, fine, that's what they'll do. That's what you want them to do. We're going to say, well, you need to take that off. No. But during the time when they're at their desk, and when they're up and they go to the bathroom or we leave to go somewhere or whatever it is, they're going to have that PPE on to assure that we're safe. But we're not going to make them wear it 7.5 hours. That was our plan. That's what we're doing. That's what was approved. And that's subject to change. I mean, it could change, but that's our plan right now, today, as it stands. So the idea of temps, that's another thing that came up in the COVID plan. Why won't we temp? Parents temp your child every morning before they come to school. Check and monitor their COVID symptoms every day. And keep the students home if they're sick or showing cold symptoms. That's the idea of our plan for you to assure. It's the same thing my son plays on a local soccer team, Che United. They tell parents, temp your kids before they get to the soccer field. And then somebody's there to go, temp them, got it? They kind of double check and make sure that we've done when parents give the thumbs up. Don't send them sick this year. I know normally we say if they got a runny nose or coughing, just suck it up, let's go. We can't miss too much school. We have to be more careful this year. So that's the idea. We understand that means that they may miss more school, and I'll get to that later. But no, we're not going to be temping every child because it will just slow up our arrival, just getting kids. It's hard enough to just get all the students in the school and where they need to be in a timely fashion so we can start the day on time. Do not give children, we always say this, but it's really important this year that we're not giving children fever-reducing medication and sending them to school because that will mask the temperature, and that's a main thing we have to focus on. A child has a temperature 104 or above. I don't know why they say 104 above. Maybe it's 105 rounds up to 100.5 rounds up to 101. I don't know, but the CDC guideline is 100.4. That's what we normally say as well with flu or anything. They have that temperature. That's a big COVID sign. So that's when you need to keep them home. And the PCP is their primary care physician. That's who you contact. The plan is you go to your primary care physician saying my child's running a fever, and then they will be the one to release your child back to school. That is done by the primary care physician, and that changes as well. It used to be you go and they'll get you a test, and then you're going to quarantine, and you're going to test again before you're really, they just change the process consistently, constantly, ongoingly, as they know more about, I assume as they know more about the disease and how it operates, they change their policies. So we may change our policies as well, but right now they align with what the CDC is saying and what our advisors are saying. And so we've been advised, go to your primary care physician at that time, and then they will decide where you should test, how you should test. And we'll be sending some information that we have on proper testing. I'm not sure that that's going out yet or not. Did we send that out? Yeah. So there are tests that are, you hear a lot about testing if that's bad and testing that's good. Inaccuracy in testing. Antibody test 50%, right? That's not so good. I had an antibody test, and I have a friend who's a doctor of internal medicine. He said, they're worthless. Don't waste your time. Then I talked to Alan, and he said, he's right if it's a certain kind that most of the time they give, but there are antibody tests that actually are. And then he explained how there are 3 different types of antibodies and some tests for certain, it was over my head, but there are antibody tests that are more accurate. I took one yesterday, came up negative. I haven't had COVID. I was disappointed because I was hoping I had it. I really thought I had. The flu strain that's going around last year, I just talked to my doctor because he had, we both got sick around the same time with flu, and it was pneumonia and flu. And that's the flu strain that went around. He said, yeah, it could be the same strain that comes around this year, which is just unfortunate because that means it's a respiratory flu that we had last year. We could have another one this year, which means it's going to look just like COVID, which makes it more difficult for doctors. And that's why the primary care physician, they know all of this. They're in the loop. They know what's going on, and on the edge of that, they should be the ones making those decisions about when students come back, when they don't, the testing, and we'll get a note from them before they come back when they're sick with a fever. If a student or a student's direct family member that they live with tests positive for COVID-19, they must quarantine 10 to 14 days or until tested and released to return to school by their primary care physician. So that's family member. You're still going to have to go through that process because we don't want to take that chance. The entire class or classes that the student has been involved with do not have to quarantine and go through that process, but you will be notified when we know, and we're keeping accurate attendance records so that you can make a decision how you want to react at that time. Do you want to go get a test? Do you want to, we're leaving that up to you as the parents, how you want to respond. What we're going to do is our due diligence to make sure that you all know when something like that happens. If someone comes down with it and a family member, that family's quarantined, that child is quarantined, maybe even the child doesn't have it, but somebody in their family did, doesn't mean that they do. Many times not one person can get it, not everybody in the family is going to get it. Or if a child does come down with it, we will let you know, and we're not going to hide that. We're going to tell everybody so that you can make your own informed decisions about how you will respond. Pick up and drop off this year is done a little differently because of our COVID plan. So pick up for, we'll be at 310 for grades 4 through 8. And we are doing that out of the gym for 4 through 8. So we'll have 2 different pickup spots where normally we're at the carport to the right of, or my right, your left of where we're sitting. That door where we have the carport out there is normally where we pick everyone up. We're going to have a pickup spot in front of the gym doors, and someone will be at the gym. And when you come around, we're going to make, for your family, sheet of paper that you can hold up and have your name on it. Sometimes we have trouble telling who's in the car, or we have trouble with the glare seeing. So you can hold up a sheet of paper that will say your family's name. It'll help the person at the door. They'll call the student will come out. Sometimes we'll have 2 people we'll work on it and figure out, when we're in the lower carport, we usually have 2 people outside. Right now, we're going to try to do it with 1 in the upper school. We'll call the student, they'll come out, we'll load. Now, if you have a student that's in 4th through 8th grade, but you also have a student that's in 3rd grade and down, you would not come at 3:10, you would come at 3:20, because that's when the lower school is dismissing. And what you would do then, instead of 3:10, you'll come at 3:20. We stagger it so we get everybody out of Liberty Road without bottlenecking everything. So 3:10, 3:20, it's in the COVID plan, it's also in the handbook. You come around, you pick up your older student, and then you swing around to the carport and you pick up your younger student. Makes sense. It'll help us to keep the students spread out. We don't have enough room in the hall. We can spread them out a little more. We'll line them up and file. The aftercare kids will have a line as well, and we will be able to hopefully make the dismissal run smoothly. I think the idea is great. It may be the way we dismiss from here on out. Some things we do with COVID, and we go, oh, why didn't we do that the whole time? That's pretty smooth, It's running better for us. So that's what we're hoping with that. So we'll have that marked off out there, and we'll be ready for you to come at that time. Just pay attention to the times. Aftercare is limited because of COVID. We do still have a number of spaces available, but if you haven't signed up and you need aftercare, it's on we need you to sign up for that and fill a spot. Drop-ins may be available, but don't assume that they are available because they also may not be available. If we fill up and have 15 children in there, those spots may not. Now, somebody may have been absent that day, and there may be a spot available, and you're in a bind, and I really can't get off work to get here. Can they go to aftercare today? I'll pick them up at 5. Still may be a possibility. Don't assume it. Call and see if there is space available, because I'm assuming that this will fill up. It usually is pretty close to 15. But in respect that we have to be concerned about our staff members. And so we have 2 staff members instead of 1 that are in that aftercare, and we have the students split up into 2 rooms so we can space them out appropriately. And I don't want to overburden them with having too many children and not being able to space appropriately for their health. I have a note here about volleyball. Boy, it's tough. Those of you who have children who play on the volleyball team, talked to the coach today, told her Liberty Christian right up the road, we had a couple of games with. They closed down since we scheduled with them, and they're not going to have any sports this year. And a lot of schools are closing their sports programs, so we're going to try to still have volleyball. We have some homeschool groups that we're trying to schedule with. And even if we do something where it's pickup, when they come out and they play and they can get some exercise and have some fellowship and have fun. Those girls have played together since 5th grade, a lot of them, and they would be so disappointed if they didn't have an opportunity. Also want to say, if they are that serious about playing in high school, I don't know what clubs are open, and I know the rec is, soccer's out there, football's out there, baseball's out there. Everybody's out on the fields now. I coach local rec team. We're out just the same as we were last year. I mean, we have guidelines as well. But if there's an opportunity for them to play in another capacity, you may want to look at that. But we are still trying to get games. It's just very difficult for us at this time. And I'll have more by Friday out about volleyball. Again, we're still hoping to have a basketball season as well. And I think things are lightening up in that way so that we may see that we can schedule. It'll probably be more limited, but we're hoping to get games for basketball as well. And our basketball team, for boys basketball. Inclement weather, I just always say we follow Carroll County policy. I'm more into the handbook now, but I'll come back for COVID questions. This year will be the same. We can vary from Carroll County Public Schools, but we follow them, so just keep your ear out for that. If we're not gonna follow, we're gonna let you know in advance, and we're gonna send a text out that we're not, so we have the text alert, and you get a text on those type of things where we make a decision of something that we don't want to just send out on email. Like something happens in the school, we have the ability to text you now and give you a text alert that, the power went out, you need to come get your children. It's the dead of winter, and we got about 3 hours before this, 2 hours before the place is 30 degrees. So, stuff can happen like that. We had that happen once, where we had something like that happen. But you would get a text now, which is good. We weren't able to do that a few years ago. And then you'll know what you need to do. Attendance policy is more lax this year in that we understand that children are going to miss, and we're going to work with them when they miss to get their work done. A part of that plan is that we have AV carts that we purchased. We purchased 3. They are about $5,000 a piece. They are nice quality, nice audio, nice visual equipment. We can put those in classes. And we also have the ability, we bought iPads, and we can put iPads in the classrooms and be able to stream if we have absences. So we're going to try to be able to manage absences through AV equipment, so that if a child's quarantined, they're home for say 10 days, and they're healthy. Most of the kids are not going to have any symptoms. They'll be asymptomatic. But somebody in the house tested positive. We got everybody tested. Johnny had COVID, but he's not sick. But we know he has it. He has to be quarantined. Well, then we can stream the classroom is the idea, so that he can follow along with his books, keep up virtually with what's going on. Somebody in the class had it. You don't feel comfortable sending them in, and we have half the class out because somebody in the class came down with COVID. Again, we have the ability to stream and get that classroom online. Obviously, we can't do every room in the school, but we will be able to do, at this point, we will be able to do 7 classrooms, right? 6, 7. We're working on, we have the 4 iPads in now. Everything's back ordered with AV equipment. And so we have all the AV equipment except for the cameras. And so we're waiting for that order to come in, and it's back ordered because they're sold out everywhere. So we've been waiting for those to come in, and hopefully we'll get them soon. So we'll have our AV carts up and ready to go. That's the idea. If we need to buy more iPads to be able to do that, we will. We upgraded our internet service so that we're about 4 times stronger to handle the extra streaming than we were. So we've made that adjustment as well. Reminder about the peanut and tree nut free classroom. Since they're going to be eating in the classroom, that's another thing. We have 1 out of 13 children will have an anaphylaxis reaction. Most of them will be peanut and tree nut allergies, and so we protect the children by not bringing those products in. If it's made in a facility or made, processed on the same equipment, that's not the same thing as having peanuts and tree nuts in something, because they can be cross-contaminated to other children. And so we ask that you not send in their lunches those peanut tree nut items. My Schoolwork's another thing that we're going to do with managing the classroom is that on My Schoolworks, we're going to build in our lesson plans, and not just for teachers to plan, but we're going to put those plans over into the homework section so that you'll be able to see what we're doing, and that way if your child's absent, you'll be able to go into My Schoolworks and see what we're doing with the homework, with the classwork, what we were doing that day, and then you'll be able to follow along and complete the work from home. Some things we'll still have to disseminate to you like we normally do with worksheets and things like that, but some of those things can be scanned and sent as well if you can't make it in to the school to pick them up. So just another way that we're trying to manage absences due to COVID. Field trips are going to be more limited. Feast will probably push till the spring, some of them. We're not allowed to make food at home and bring it in, and that's how most of our feasts run. Everybody brings in something, we share, and we have our, whatever classroom. Everybody has a feast of some sort. We're not able to use the kitchen and make things together. We're not able to use our homes and make things together and bring it in. Birthday parties, you can't make cupcakes and bring them in. You can bring in store-bought ones. Just give us a couple days for the kids that have allergies so we can let their parents know. That's our policy on birthdays and celebration, things like that. But no homemade things at this point can be sent in. That limits our hot lunch at this point. In October, we'll look at it again and see where we are. Right now, there'll be no hot lunches of any sort to start the school year, so Friday hot lunch will not happen. One of the things I pointed out, but I'll just reinstate now, is that we did change our policy regarding withdrawals, and that's to be fair to you. If at some point, as our COVID plan changes, you say, I'm not comfortable with that, that's not, I'm not ready for that, and you disagree, and you don't feel comfortable sending your children here, then you may withdraw, and no matter where that is in the school year, you pay ahead on your tuition. We will give you that tuition back up to the month that you're currently in. And so it's our policy to do that through December 15th. And then we go on, that's about when we go on Christmas break. And then so when we come back from Christmas break, usually we have to pay teachers, so we have contractual obligations too. We expect that you will finish your obligation of paying us throughout the rest of the year. This year you can withdraw at any time and you'll receive anything you paid in ahead. Just to be fair to our parents, wouldn't want them doing something they're uncomfortable doing. Last thing, this one, pray for Teresa Navarrete. She is our RN who's been with us for many years. When we started the school, we did not have a nurse oversight. We did not administer medication for years here. We administered no medications at the school. Parents wanted medications, they would come in themselves and they give their children what they need or keep them home if they're too sick to give them meds, meaning that we couldn't administer any medication. So when we got an RN oversight, we have CMTs in the school now, and we can distribute the meds. Myself and Mrs. Eversole and several other people in the school are trained and certified to give meds. Mrs. Teresa, our RN, is very ill right now and is not able to continue on, and that is something I found out fairly recently. We have a nurse who is Rebecca Shields, who is an RN, who will oversee our meds distribution, but to start the school year off, she is not in the Maryland Board of Nursing, does not have any classes and hasn't had any classes since we found out about this, that she's been able to take and get certified. And so what we're going to do while we're waiting for her to finish that class in September and to get her certification from Board of Nursing, we have a couple of nurses on staff, and I've been communicating with them about how we come up with a schedule so we can have a nurse here at the school during the lunch period from 11 to 1:30, 1:30 in that range. That's when we see most of the students, between about 11 and 1:30. If they're going to have a headache or it always happens at lunch. Mrs. Eversole has a terrible lunch hour there because it's constant, runny nose. I bumped my nose. We ran into each other. I fell and skinned my knee. There's all that stuff that happens, and then there's, I don't feel good, and so that that's when everything happens. And so we hopefully will handle most of what we need to do at that point in time. It was also the time of the day when parents have given fever-reducing medications to children that they start to feel real bad. We're asking you not to do that this year. But if we do have a situation like that, we'll have a nurse there that can help us through that as well and deal with that. And so we will have nurse oversight this year, and we do have a plan, but it's not going to be, in some ways it'll be more thorough because we'll have a nurse on campus that, that's helpful. But as far as giving meds throughout the whole day through September, that's going to be a little bit more limited. So we'll do the best as we can with that, and they may need to rely on you a little bit to start the year. Let me see. I think that's all I have as far as handbook and COVID plans. So now we'll start taking your questions. And you can throw no questions from the virtual community. Wow, that's a shocker. I thought we would have 20 by now. I'm jotting them down. Yeah, go ahead. Ladies first. Is who going to announce closures? Yes.
Okay. So if they're not in the building by then, let's say,
Right.
are they going to say schools are?
Yeah, I don't know how they're, yeah, so we will make our own call if they're not, if they aren't in, which it doesn't sound like they're going to be in, I think they're saying now October 9th or something. I heard something today that they'll be in October because they went to phase 3 and now they're like, okay, we can do it. At least, I think it's 75% is what I heard, something like that. Until that time, we'll make our own call. And we'll let you know. We'll text if it starts snowing in the middle of the day, we'll send out a text. If it's something the night before, Mrs. Eversole and I communicate anyway about what's going on. Even when they make a call, we're still communicating, and we usually send something out anyway, just to make sure parents know what's going on. So, yeah. And you had a question? Yes. So, yes, that's a good point. I thought that I communicated and I did not. Because what I was thinking was I would let parents make that decision. Now, originally, that was before the whole Gator controversy too, which had to, things change constantly. What we said was, what I said initially, well, what did we say today? We were discussing this in teacher training. Help me out. Because what I originally thought was we would keep neutral colors. And then we said what today? Because I realized that I hadn't communicated that.
We're going to try to limit that whatever you wear, at least comply with our dress down day.
That's it.
So no vulgar images or graphic images that.
The like clown face or Trump lips or all this goofy stuff you see. That's not going to happen. But yeah. That's on us, so if you have those already that are unicorns, we'll put up with it, but don't, it shouldn't be, I think the dress code is not something that takes away from your appearance or draws unnecessary attention to yourself, that's the precept behind it, So that's a hard call, it's subjective. That's why it's saying something like, just keep it solid colors, and it makes it a lot easier, yeah. We do have gaiters that available for purchase. We have, this one's an adult size that I was showing you, or that's what they're calling it, but they're fine for teenagers and, older kids, 5th grade and up probably. This would be comfortable. And then there's a smaller one that's for the littler kids, so probably 5th grade now. Depends on how big the kid is. You can look at them, we have them. All right, other questions that anybody has? COVID questions, general questions? Yep. They have to wear gaiters. No, they don't. We're not forcing them to wear the gaiter, meaning, they don't have to have it up like this. Because if you are saying that this is what you feel more comfortable with is wearing a mask, and I wear these all the time. I have a cloth one in the car. I have an N95. You want them to wear a mask, right, like this. You're wearing something similar. That's fine. But they will have the gaiter then as a turtleneck. So that when this breaks, which happens all the time to me, and it falls down, and, my other one's in the book bag, and now the class is distracted. No, just pull your gaiter up. We're good. Just don't worry about that mask right now. We can get that when you go. Have a break, pull the gaiter up, you'll pull it up, the teacher will say pull it up, and then they'll have it ready to go, and we can manage them without lots of distractions in the classroom. I keep putting my hand in my pocket. Yeah. So what's the point of wearing mask? Well, what's the policy of wearing? Okay, that's a good question. So when they come into the school, they wear the mask or PPE or gaiter, shield, whatever. And when parents come into the school, they do the same. So anyone that would be, and we're asking parents, I'm glad because it made me think of some other things too. We're asking parents not to come in unless they have to. So a lot of times parents will come to the front desk, but if you can handle it in an email or telephone call, we really want to limit the amount of people that are in the building while we have school going on. Normally, we're not doing that at all. We could care less how many parents come in and want to congregate, come into chapel, join us for chapel in the morning. We send invitations out. But under COVID, we really want to limit the amount of people that we have, whether it's in chapel because of spacing or in the hallways because we're all crossing over each other. And yes, we're wearing PPE, but there's still a risk associated with that. And parents are better spreaders or vectors than children are. So by having adults in the building, it's more of a dangerous, when you're looking at spreading and moving the virus, we're more dangerous than they are. When it's not the case normally. You get the flu and the child is the one who's going to spread it around the school, spread it around the house. They're just great at that. But with COVID, they're saying not so much, you know. So I don't know if I answered your question or not regarding, essentially, here's the rule. If you're at your desk and we're learning and we're not singing, so if we're doing chants and jingles, they'll put their gaiter up and they'll go through that process. But if we're doing normal classroom, you know, just working at their desk, they can pull it down. They can take it off. But when they get up to go to the bathroom, they get up to go to lunch, they get up to get something out of their book bag, whatever it is. And that's why the gaiters are actually really good, is because they can have it off and just and go very quickly, and they don't have to go try to find it, where'd they put it, misplace it. I misplace them all the time, forget that I had them, but with the gaiter, I can just go, oh, that's right. I get to the hallway in teacher training, and I'm like, oh, the mask, left it on the table. But with the gaiter, it's right there. Boom, you just pop it right up. And so management-wise, it's a better option, or we felt it was a better option. The leadership here did. So that's that. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure I did. Did I answer? Okay. Okay. For people that don't have masks when they're sitting in space 6 feet, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So the idea is spacing, you know, if we're properly spaced, then we're okay. But when we can't assure that that can happen, then we have to wear PPE. To make sure that we're not spreading the germ. That's the thought process behind it. I don't know if that helps or not. Yeah. So, okay, so right now we're starting with lunch and recess. So lunch will be in the rooms. And then when they go to recess, we're trying to go outside as much as possible. We have a recess schedule for when weather's bad. It's not ideal because it forces us to have recesses that don't fit the schedule so well. But what we've done, instead of normally what we would do, is we would take 4 classes, 1st through 4th, go down, do recess in the gym. That's crowded usually anyway, but it's just the way we've done it because it fits in the schedule right, where you want them to have a break. When it's inclement weather, we have to do 2 classes in the gym, and it's not ideal because we're taking breaks. Sometimes we don't really want to take breaks, but it's what we had to do. So we are having recess. We are keeping them from being too cooped up, you know, in a space, or crammed in a space, I should say, so that, you know, when they're inside. That's the issue, is like when they're running around. But what I can't do, or what I don't want to do, is to say, no, you don't get a recess today, it's raining outside. You don't get to run around at all. You don't get to do that. You're just going to sit at your desk and with no recesses. Because I don't think that's what parents want for their children. I could be wrong. Maybe some parents do, some parents don't, but that's kind of what we felt like. Let them run around. They need to do that. We are not going to require masks outside, no. Just there's a danger there with respiratorily for children. There's children passing out wearing masks. We had a parent here that told me about their child being involved outside with a mask on, and they're passed out. I don't really want to do that to our kids. Put them in a situation where it's 85, 90 degrees out there. I'm sweating and uncomfortable breathing, just being outside doing PE with them. Normally, I can't imagine. And I coach soccer, and I have to wear a gator mask, some sort of PPE when I'm doing it, and I'm so glad I'm not running around with it on, because the kids don't have to. All the rec programs, you don't see them out there running around with masks on. They take those. What we do, we wear it to the field, and then we take it off, and then we play, and then we put it on when we leave, because Carroll County tried to make them actually do that, and the rec council said, no way. There's no way we can make kids run around in 90 degrees, humid, with a mask on. That's just cruel, and it's not good for their health. And so we won that at the rec council level. And I'm just saying that's how other people are dealing with things with rec. I wouldn't make them do it outside. But if you as a parent want them to wear a gaiter or a mask the whole time they're outside, or 3 forms of PPE, I'll probably make you put that in writing for us. Put it in an email so when they pass out, it's not on me, it's on you as a parent. I'm okay with that if that's what the parent wants. We stand in loco parentis, we're not the parents. So if you say, look, we want them to wear even outside or whatever, or we want them to sit out because it's more important that, I just talked to a parent, was it yesterday? And the spouse has an autoimmune issue, and they're very concerned for the spouse, this gentleman's spouse. And they said, I just want my kids to, I'm just concerned for my wife. If she gets sick, it could be really bad, and the kids would feel so guilty. And I just felt, that would be terrible. If she can't, if they came home from school and made her sick, and they weren't doing the best they could, I understand that. That's a parent's decision to make that. And I said, whatever you want to do, we're going to do. Well, if you want them to wear it nonstop, we're friends. I'm friends with the person, and you got 100% support from me. I would never put you in a situation where you're going to have to do something where you're going to endanger your family member. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Okay.
Explain chapel and how that will work.
Okay, so yeah, that's good. I forgot about that. So chapel, what we're doing this year is we're doing 2 different times for chapel. So the older kids come down first, and they come in and they do chapel. And it'll be an abbreviated form of chapel, and there's no singing. Debate on that, but that's just what we decided to do based on CDC guidelines. They recommended against that. So that's the way we're starting, with no singing, no hymns or anything, with the chapel service. So they'll come down, then they go back, and that's 5th through 8th grade. So 5th grade will not do recitation this year too. That's a change too. Then the lower school comes down, 4th grade and under, and they come down for chapel. And in between we clean, and that's why we have that electrostatic sprayer to come in and hit all the pews, and we'll go around, hit all the pews. It's a CDC approved chemical for wood, fabric, kids, being safe. It evaporates out. It kills the COVID very quickly and evaporates out. And so we'll clean it down. Then the next group comes in, and then they have their chapel service, and now that's the younger ones. They have recitation after. So they have to wear their PPE to do recitation. They'll have to pull on their mask, gaiter, and do that with it on. But that will, limit the spread of anything, is what our thinking behind that. So theirs will be a little bit longer, and then it'll get cleaned again after that. The way that we're doing it, spacing-wise, is, one on the end, one in the middle, one on the end, one on the end, one in the middle, one on the end. That's 6 feet. Then the next row is splitting the middle. Right, so not on the end, but in here and in here. We're going to mark it with painter's tape. And then we're going to have 2 chairs on that row, folding chairs in the aisle. So that way I can get 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, all the way up this side, and the same way here. you know, 6 people, 6 people, 6 people, 6 people, and I can't remember what the number is. It's in the COVID plan. It's like 72, and we don't have that many. But if I were to try to alternate rows, we thought about that. Someone brought that up, and I couldn't get enough by alternating rows, so I wouldn't have to clean the rows in between. We'll see how long it takes us to clean it when we get in. We have the Mindy Dumish Servant's Touch. It's going to be their crew will be in here to clean in the morning. She'll be in here. Mindy will be, or someone from her crew will be in here doing that for us in the morning. And we've increased her involvement for cleaning all the touch surfaces, all the bathrooms, the bottle filler. Water fountains won't be used, but bottle filler. The main desk, CDC wants the main desk area cleaned out. Everything that they tell us to do. Desk will be wiped down every day. Teachers are responsible for that. So everything's getting cleaned every day. Trash is being taken out. All the guidelines the CDC's laid out for there, we're complying with as far as cleanliness is concerned. And yeah, Mindy's done a lot of research on this to know what are good chemicals, and so have we, and proper that aren't, you know, obviously we don't want to do anything that's a danger to the kids when we're using a lot more chemicals in the facility, and we want to be as cleanly as possible. So someone said, one of the teachers said to me, I think it was Mrs. Fry, she said, maybe, didn't you say this, maybe if we're really cleanly and we're using all this PPE, maybe we won't have a bad flu season or a cold season, we won't be spreading it around so much because we're doing all this stuff, and maybe we won't have so many absences, because I'm concerned about the absences, you know, how that affects the school. So I hope that's right, that we're, we're really careful, and therefore we're not going to be sick. Yeah. Yes. If a parent of a child is ill, if the parent comes, drops the child off, and they're coughing. Okay, that's actually a really good question, because we were talking about this in our teacher training this week, and because I was telling the staff the same thing, right? So, cold symptoms are COVID symptoms, but I have allergies, and they're seasonal, and I know when they're there, and I know that I get this postnasal drip, and I know how I have to manage it, but I don't always do a great job at it. But I know I get this postnasal drip, and it's like a dry cough. That's different than sore throat, cough like that. When someone's sick, you know it, right? So if they just have a cough, like a postnasal drip type of thing from allergies, so people have allergies, they'll have it all year, they wouldn't be able to come to school. You as a parent, yeah, you do have to make a call on that. Maybe good to communicate that with us. Look, he's suffering with allergies. I'm starting him on his allergy meds. It usually takes a couple days for that to kick in, but he's not sick and doesn't have cold symptoms. It's just something, it's a call on that. We're probably going to err, if we see it on our end, on the side of we're going to call you up and say, hey, you know, we've got a cough, we're going to have to send him home, or a cold symptom, we're going to send him home, and then we'll just try to work with the parent to understand what's going on. But yeah, cold symptoms are COVID symptoms, so yeah, that's the problem with the absences that I'm worried about, is that, you know, normally we're just pushing through a lot. You know, we're just going to school and we're going to pass around a cold. And it's not a big deal. If you get a cold, usually you just might feel bad for a few days, and usually you can push through it. But with COVID, we have to err on the side of caution in that regard. So yeah, you're probably going to get a call from us if that's the case, if they're showing cold symptoms, because they're going to send them back down to the office. So the COVID waiver, I didn't write all that, but I didn't even write most of it. Some of the wording on there, I did write the COVID waiver myself initially, and then it went through 2 sets of lawyers. So it changed a little bit, at least the legalese part of it. What I did, I went on Carroll County Parks and Rec and some other sites, and I looked at what they wrote. and I took what applied to our school, and I wrote the COVID waiver. And then I sent it to the lawyers. You send it to the insurance lawyers, and they might have something to add to that. Well, you want to say this, and then you send it to your other lawyer, and you say, we need to add a whole section on this. And yeah, so it took shape in a way that was probably more legal jargon than what I was, but it was full of some legal jargon in a way that we don't normally write things here. But with COVID, we just, we had to pass it through a couple sets of attorneys, and then it ended up being more wordy than we normally do. But it protects us as an academy, and you know, we realize that what you realize is that you are taking on some risk by sending your child to school. And you're saying that that risk is not greater than the risk of my child sitting at home learning nothing all year, or having to do a quasi-virtual at home or whatever. We are assuming some risk. You know, just like when my child plays at the rec council, I have to sign a paper that says I'm not going to hold them at harm because, you know, something happens to them. I mean, obviously, the coach takes a baseball bat and hits them in the head. You're going to go to jail. You're going to be sued. You know, you can't do something stupid or negligent, or you're going to be in trouble. It doesn't sign us off of all liability for all students in the school. That's any school, anything, any way. You still, if you're negligent, you're not doing, if we just come in and we decide, hey, it all looked good in the COVID plan, everybody bought it, don't worry about it. Yeah, we're liable for that. You know, that's us being negligent for that, right? And so we would be in trouble and probably will get sued. That still can happen where, you know, we're negligent or take it to the authorities or whatever. We're not going to do that. We're taking it seriously. We're doing what we said we're going to do. And I'm holding our staff accountable to do what we said we're going to do. If it's in the plan, we're doing it. And we're doing it to the best that we can. Our kids not going to follow they're not going to follow. They're going to have masks on and their PPE, and they're going to forget, and they're going to be down the hall, and somebody's going to pull someone's mask, and they're not supposed to because they're too close and they're messing around. Kids are going to do that stuff because they always do that stuff. And we're just going to manage it as best as we can, like we always do. We run a tight ship here, and that's what we do. So we'll do the best we can on our end. Yeah. We talked about that. That we have alcohol pump, you know, where they can do that in the classroom when they come in. So that I don't think we should send them all to the bathroom to wash their hands, because I think it will be an absolute nightmare to try to manage 50 kids going to the bathroom at the same time. But some teachers will just use that, you know, or the teachers will use that in the classroom. We have a number of the alcohol pump in the classroom. They can just use, you know, wipe their hands off real good with that and be done in 5 seconds instead of 20 seconds, everybody at the sink. Singing the song 3 times, happy birthday, or whatever we're doing, that could be difficult to manage. Any other questions? Yes? Oh, yes, parents have to sign. If your child is coming to the school, you will sign the waiver or they won't come to school. I mean, I don't know how to make it any clearer than that. We wouldn't have a waiver and then say, well, you can have an option of signing this waiver or not. I mean, that's anywhere. If I go to the rec council, my kids are going to play ball, and I say, not signing the COVID waiver, they're going to say, okay, nice seeing you. You know, I mean, it's just a fact of life. Yeah.
I have a question. How often are high-touch areas being wiped down?
Every day, we wipe all of them down. That's the CDC regulation, that they're wiped down every day. We have someone coming in. I'm sorry? Yeah, that is happening more regularly. I think when they're talking about high-touch areas, I'm thinking that they're probably saying, like, the doorknobs, the, doors going out. We're trying to keep things open so that they don't have to touch. We usually do that anyway. We usually prop the doors. Those doors are propped open. The double doors going both ways are propped open. The gym doors are usually closed, so we might need to wipe them down more, like after each lunch. But the main touch areas and doorknobs and everything. Now the classroom, if a child gets up and needs to go to another classroom, that desk is wiped down, or if a class moves to another classroom. Usually they're not transitioning. Usually they're staying where they are. But there are occasions, like for Mrs. Hancock's science class, where they would come down and do a lab or do something in her classroom. They would wipe everything down when they're finished. So that would happen maybe multiple times. If the art class is doing an art project and need to use that room, they would come down. They would be in another classroom. They would wipe we talked about this week. Teachers are responsible to wipe that all down and sanitize that area before they leave, which has to be built into our planning. So that's what we're doing with that. Hope that answered. You think it answered? Okay. Wow, we talked about, we didn't talk about that in training, but I think we talked about that in our initial COVID meeting with teachers that I had. Clubs are, we're going to have to think about that. We're going to have to, none of them start, does math club start right away in the beginning of the year? Right? It doesn't, right? Okay, so none of the clubs are starting in the beginning of the year, and we have to think through how that would work and be able to do it with CDC guidelines in play. Because usually in clubs, they're real close to each other, playing chess or doing games in the math club, and they're using all the same, like the games that they play and things like that. It would be difficult. I'll meet with the people who are running clubs and discuss how we might do that. We had an enjoyable time with Chess Club doing it online when we had to do that last year. I don't think I would want to do that again, though. I think it's to go into that saying this is how we're going to do club. We're going to do it virtually in the evening or something. I don't think it's. I wouldn't want to revisit it. So if we can do it and there's a way that we could get that approved to do it like we normally would do it with guidelines in place, then we might be able to do it later in the year, but not right now, in the way things are right now. Any other online questions?
They were asking that you repeat the question.
Oh, repeat the question. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The Christmas, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. The Christmas program, what we had said I think we said in the COVID plan, it could end up being, for the Christmas program, a number of different scenarios when we get there. What we did, we had, Mrs. Lembo wrote the Christmas program again for us this year, and then had to, what I asked her to do was reimagine that program, not like we normally do with the kids acting out and doing things up here, but doing it chorally, and so they would sing and have songs that they could do as a class. That could be something, if it remains like it is now, that we might have to do and record it and send it home, and put something together in a recorded fashion. We're practicing those hymns and songs and poetry, Bible readings, things that we can manage without getting the kids too close together, in the classroom and not as a group. And the choir is not meeting, so that's part of our Christmas program normally. So we're not doing choir until we're hoping the end of the last part of the year we can have the student choir and not the beginning part of the year. So Christmas program will have to be reimagined. I didn't want to cancel it. Originally I was advised to just cancel it, but I really pushed back on that and I didn't want to. I wanted us to try to figure out a way we could reimagine it. And so the idea might be that we have the lower school in here and the upper school in the gym, and they come in and JK comes in and they do their presentation of their song. Spaced out up here, we could do it. And they would sing and have their readings and have their poetry and the things that they do together, and then they leave, and then the JK would go, and they would go to the gym, and then they would do it for the other set of parents. And so they could see the whole program that way and still be able to space out appropriately and do the things they need to do. If they had a gator, they could pull it up when they walk to one place to the next. That's a possibility. So we're working through it in that way, that we are trying to do it differently but still have a Christmas program. That's our plan right now. Yes? To share the stuff that they're like, especially with the little ones, like manipulatives and things like that. So the way they're managing that is like to share things is that they're having sometimes like their own set of toys. You know how they have like a toy play time, and they break it up with a junior kindergarten. They would have their own set. When they're using manipulatives, we have a way that we're going to clean those things down. See Mrs. Hillman, that's who I was thinking about when I was talking about this, because we had a conversation about, they need to have those things. That's part of the learning. They need to be able to do the manipulatives. They need to be able to touch and see the shapes. They need to be able to still, how will we do that? And so you either make a set for each one to do, which is different than we normally would do, or you get them all back from them and you just clean them all for the next day when you're going to hand them out or do something different. And so, does that answer your question? Kind of. So what part about sharing didn't I answer? Oh, no, they have their own. Yeah, they would have their own. They have their own set. In the supplies, they have their own set. We don't normally, well, we can in art. Like, say it's art class. And we're going to give them, we would just give them a set that they would use. So they wouldn't be sharing and hey, to use my, back and forth and back and forth. They wouldn't be doing that. It would be, here's a set of crayons, here's a set of pencils, here's a set of, watercolor pencils that for you to use. And we would give them each a set of whatever we need them to use and not have them just passing things back and forth. Did that answer your question? Kind of? Okay. I mean, I'm trying to think about. You think that's good? Is that good on the online questions? All right. Any other questions about COVID plan in general, handbook, anything? We're good? Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate your support of the Academy and entrusting your children for us to educate them. I hope that we have a great year. It's our 20th anniversary celebration year, so I have to find some ways that we can celebrate. And it's just a joy to be able to serve in this ministry. I know our teachers are excited to get the year started. So thank you very much, and y'all have a good evening. Oh, if you want to purchase the gaiters, what is it? 8 for 1, 15 for 2 for the gaiters. And we have the 2 sizes, and you can look at, and we'll help you with that.
Front desk.
For those of you who are at home, if you are interested in purchasing, we will have, I assume we'll have extra, and if we need to, we'll buy more. Oh, okay. Ooh, hey, how you doing?